I can see more and more people coming in here, so I think we can get started. So welcome to today's webinar. I will speak in English as we have a guest speaker here today, Jonathan from the UK. Today we are going to focus on change order and kostnadsändringar i projekten och ÄTOR som jag nämnde innan. Och vi har en gäst, Jonathan, och sen har vi Claes också som kommer ha möjlighet till att ställa frågor. Det finns en chatt, ni får jättegärna ställa frågor där. Vi kommer ta upp relevanta frågor under presentationen, annars kommer de besvaras på slutet här. The people we have with us today to hold this presentation is Jonathan. And Jonathan, I think you can start with presenting yourself and a bit what we are going to go through during this webinar.
Fantastic. Thanks, Britta. Yeah, I'm Jonathan Ward. I'm the UK Cloud Services Manager with Symmetry. I've been within what we call the Autodesk channel for 24 years now. I've worked across a very broad sweep of industry areas, document management systems, system solutions. Prior to my move to the Autodesk channel, I worked in industry, in construction, in manufacturing as well, mainly around cost management, hence my focus on Autodesk's cost management system within Build. That's it on me. We're going to have a quick poll. I think Britta's just going to put a quick poll up.
Yes, so I was thinking to get some participants here from the audience. It's always nice to see a bit what you're actually using today to handle cost, and also if you're actually using the product that we are talking about today. It's the Autodesk Construction Cloud, so you will also be able to see the answer from everyone here. So I'm gonna launch it here, so you should be able to see it up on your screen, and it's basically ask about what if and what you are using in the project today, and you are able to choose a multiple answer, and it's just for us to have a little input on what where we are with the audience today. Perfect. I'm gonna share it now. So it's actually quite interesting that quite a lot of our audience today is actually not using the Autodesk Construction Cloud or the BIM 360 today. I think it's very important then to clarify what we are talking about in the platform today. So what we are focusing on is the Autodesk Build. What we try to differentiate it from is that this is what we mainly use in the production of the building. When we actually build, we are out on the site, everything that comes with it, and the focus today is going to be cost management and how we handle when we have different change order. Is it within the scope of the budget? Is it outside? So we're gonna, I think also for you, Jonathan, to try to clarify a bit where we are in the product today, so that we can get the audience to follow. I'm gonna do one more, just to try to get an input on this one. I mean, it's quite general, but it's where do you handle actually your project budget, the budget for the building project today? I try to make it. I mean, it's so many different systems, but this is something we can talk about more specific with the single users as well. But there are different ways we work with different systems. It's a bit faster too. I'm gonna give it 20 more seconds, and then we're gonna reveal the results. So we have 62% voted. Let's share the results. So we have Excel, other economical system. I know that very general, but it's also for us to see how many people are actually on Excel today with their project budget. I don't know, maybe in the chat already now, if you would like to share, if you have any specific challenges within the budget or cost management of the project, if you are able to share some question already initially, you are very welcome to do so that we can have some question to answer later, because maybe you have some idea already. So Jonathan, I'm gonna hide this, and then I'm gonna leave it over to you.
Fantastic, thank you, Britta. Okay, so that poll actually with sort of at least half the people using Excel to manage the ongoing costs within the building project. That's very common for what we hear. It's one of the challenges that we look to overcome with Autodesk Build, and specifically cost management. Excel, obviously, it's a well-known package, spreadsheets. Everybody uses them. The problem with them is that they're not necessarily related to anything. So we have this idea where they're siloed. They're not really interconnected. Anything that you want to do, you have to do manually. So there's no sort of connection between the program work to schedule and the cost. So you can't feed anything in, so you can't look really well into the future. Everything has to be done manually, and that can affect the reporting accuracy. You know, mistakes can be made inside of Excel. You're only going to have one slight miscalculation in there somewhere, and it can effectively present incorrect information. And it's quite a labor-intensive operation. Recording information, picking it up, and transferring that information manually into your spreadsheets. What Autodesk Build, and particularly cost management, allow you to do is to keep everything into one place. So just looking at the previous part, where a lot of people aren't actually using Build at the moment, so just stepping a little bit further back from cost, Build allows you to put all of your information that relates to your construction project into one ecosystem. And that's drawings and models and information and issue management, RFIs, technical submissions of specifications and other documents. All of this is centralized within Build. Build includes cost management. And because of that, there is integration between everything that we're doing within Build and within our cost management. That just takes away that side of information. It automates the transfer of information from Build into cost, because there are links between different areas. Britta talked about obviously the change management. This is one of the real strong points of Autodesk cost management. This system Build allows you to manage that change from the initial information of something triggering a change is potentially on the horizon, to put that into cost management, so that our commercial teams can look at that and work out the impact of that potential change, and what action we can take in order to avoid it. And that's where our insights come in, because we've got all that information in one central area. we can start to use it. We've got everything linked together. Our schedules can be linked to our budget so that we can start to look out into the future. Cost reporting, as probably anybody knows that's done anything with this on the call today, is an historic record by its very nature. We have performed this way last month. Those are the figures because we have to collate them, we have to present them, so they are historic, and we need to show that, and we can do all of that in cost management. But what we can't then easily do without something like the cost management system is to look forwards, and that's the real value. It's fine reporting past misdemeanors we overspent, but if we can look forwards and say, if these series of events occur, then we could potentially overspend by 100,000, 200,000 euros, pounds, dollars, whatever we're working in. That's the real power and the real benefit. And I've highlighted that. That is, of all the other things within Autodesk Build and cost management, that's the key. The change management, everything that builds into that gives us that look into the future. And that enables us to have better communication with our on-site teams, with our commercial teams, with our management teams. Everything is in one place. We can go and look at the performance of an individual project. We can go and have a look at the performance of all of our projects in one go. It's real time visualization of that data. As we put those in, our teams can immediately see the effects of those. Because everything's central, we have improvements to our operational efficiency. We no longer taking information from here and here and here and manually enter them into a spreadsheet and then having to check that we've got all the calculations correct, and then maybe putting them into a PowerPoint presentation to go and present them to the teams and to the management teams. We get that increase in efficiency, and we get simply stronger cost control because everything is in there. We're not relying on spreadsheets that can be error prone, that we've got to manually enter data into. That's what Autodesk Build and cost management means for you. This is an overview of Autodesk Build, in fact. And I'll just quickly run through it because there was, from the poll, obviously not a lot of people maybe are using this. So Autodesk Build comes with a series of modules. We've got document management, which is our document control, our storage area, upon which everything else sits. And then we can enable project management, so for RFIs and submittals, meeting minutes, progress tracking, quality management, safety management, all the way through to project closeout. And the highlighted one is our cost management, and obviously that's the focus of today's session. Just looking at cost management in just a little bit more detail, some of the workflows we think tend to think of them as workflows that we can deliver within cost management, and then some of the features. So we're looking at budget and contract management, change management, payment applications. Payment applications both downstream, so in other words, people claiming money from us, and potentially us claiming money from our client. Forecasting and dashboards. So this is that insights bit that's looking out into the future. It's using all of the information that we've gathered from our budget and change management and payment applications, and using that to then look out into the future and say, what's our cash position going to look like in another month, 2 months, 3 months? And then to support all of that functionality, we can include financial markups. We have a whole suite of document templates. The system comes with document templates embedded. You can take those and customize them. Alternatively, you can throw them out and we can start from scratch with your own documents that you already use and build those into the system so that those are then generated automatically from within cost management. This is a visual of, I suppose, really what I've talked about in terms of what we do, how we start. We start with our budget. What have we got to spend on this project? And we assign that to contracts, subcontract, invoiced services, etc. We can then manage those cost payment applications and also expenses that have come through from purchase order type services. That all feeds into our actual costs. So what have we actually spent in this period? And then again, all forwarding into and feeding into our forecasting module. The change management takes us through the entire life cycle of any potential change. We call them lots of things in the UK. Potential change orders, we call them change orders, contract variations, variation orders.
I think we have a very Swedish word for this, Jonathan, with ÄTOR.
You will see that in the platform. I have actually set that in the platform. I wasn't going to make a fool of myself by trying to pronounce it and making a complete hash of it. Thank you, Britta. So we manage that process from start to finish. I want to say start, I mean really at the start. We can be out on site, we can be looking at a drawing, at a model, we can spot an issue. We can raise a potential change order, a potential variation. There is something that may have a cost impact, and we can raise that instantly on site, on a mobile application, in the office, through the web browser. We can raise that, and then we can push that into the system, and from that point on we can then track it. So what impact may that have? What budget areas are going to be impacted by that? We can get quotes from subcontractors, from other suppliers. We can request change where we need more money for this because it's something maybe that was out of the original scope. We can track all of that all the way through the workflows until the very final piece where we have final approval and we issue a contract amendment to the subcontractor or a purchase order to another external supplier. So from the very inception all the way through to that, and then obviously all of that change feeds back into our contracts, our payment applications, our actual costing, and our forecasting. So it is the complete life cycle. I've highlighted here the inception of that. Where does that come from? And that's intrinsic within Autodesk Build. So all of these elements, wherever you might be, we can use that to generate that potential change. And the system is 95% customizable. It is the most customizable part of Autodesk Build. All of these things we can customize to suit your requirements. So approval workflows, we can customize those based on, for example, the issuing of a contract amendment to a subcontractor. We can build workflows that will look at that and say if the value of that change is less than, say, 10% of their overall contract, then it could potentially be approved by a project manager. If it's more than 10%, then it needs to go through full commercial review. So we can build all of that into the system. Multi-currency support, so we can work in any currency. You set your base currency, but you can then do purchases and manage that in different currencies. And you'll always be presented in your base currency. Compliance requirements. So certainly in the UK, when for example a subcontractor makes a payment application to us and we authorize that and we make that payment, we need a waiver from them to say that yes, they've received the payment and they have no further claim on that piece of work. So we can set all of that compliancy requirement within the system. The change management workflow, we can customize that. When we talk about cost management, we generally talk about we're sitting in the middle, so we have a final client and we have potential subcontractors or suppliers. We do often deal with owners that have no upstream, and so we can customize that system so that we simply remove those items, so that we only see the bits that we are actually going to use. And basic terminology. So how do you view things? And that's company specific, and we can make those changes. You'll see one change that I've made in the platform. It's really simple to make those changes, and they will just flood the entire build system. I won't spend too long on here. I don't think this is maybe the main area, but we can integrate with cost and ERP systems. That integration can be anything from a spreadsheet export and import to a fully configured bi-directional automated integration with an ERP system. With that, that is the end of the presentation. I am now going to just quickly share a window instead. Maybe Britta, if you could just confirm that that's coming up okay?
Yes, we see it perfectly. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you, Britta. Okay, so again, I'm going to just step back just a little bit from cost management. Just keeping an eye on the time of how we've got. I want to try and leave potentially some time for Q&A at the end if we need that. Autodesk Build, we create essentially our project. This is the project that I'm working on, and I enable all of the different areas within that. So within this project, I've got my docs, my underlying folder structure, and we'll be looking at that just a little bit as we work through. We've got other areas that we can add in, and then we've got build, and we have cost management. So when we come into cost management, we will be presented with our default home screen. This home screen is pertinent to just the person logging in. So this is my profile. I'm logged in here. So what I see here relates entirely to me. So I can see my calendar. I can see that I've got some responses due on the RFQ, the request for quote. We sometimes label that as pricing. I've asked for some quotes for an entrance expansion that we're considering. So I get a little note here. It's got a hyperlink. I can click on that and go and have a look at that directly. I can see any reviews that I'm working on that I need to process. I see an overview of the budget and how it's broken down into the various packages. You can change this between budget, projected budget, forecast final cost, etc. And then we've got a little overview then of the budget trend, again based by different packages, and we can see the original budget, revised budget, and projected budget. So we can see how we're looking at that. We're looking like we're potentially going to be claiming extra money on this, so obviously we need to look at that. And then we've got the same for the cost side, and here I can see that I've got my original cost for the envelope package was 10.9, and now I've got a forecast of 11.9. So that's obviously something that's going to highlight to me. I want to go and look at that in more detail. Now, as Britta mentioned, I'm going to focus more on change management. I will give you obviously an overview of the entire system, but I will focus on that. And you can see here that I've changed my variations to include your term for that. I'm not going to jump into the settings now, but they are extensive. We can change basically anything that we see here. when we look into our budget main page, so this is effectively the money we're going to be getting for this. This is controlling our top level overview. It looks very much like a spreadsheet, as you would probably expect it to. It has numerous columns in here that can all be customized. So we can include any different columns that we want. A little bit like having a massive spreadsheet that we can just turn on and off columns. Very similar to the way you might do that. The difference here is that all of these figures are, after we've loaded in our budget, these are all picked up from our day-to-day workings within the system. So there's no need for us to go and collate all of that information, extract a report, load it into Excel, type stuff into Excel. As we are recording things, they are appearing in here, in these various columns. So where are we sitting? We have some reserves that we've made because we are expecting some changes. We've got some pending change orders. So we've applied for additional money from the client, and we can see what those are. We can look into the detail of those, and we can see how they affect our projected costs. So this is our overview sheet, a quite detailed overview sheet. We can import this via a spreadsheet or via a link to ERP systems, etc. When we look at these budget codes, these budget line items, this is only what we're tracking. So this is the rolled up budget line item that we need to keep an eye on. Those obviously can be made up of infinite detail, and we can accommodate all of that. So this is our budget line item. It's made up of all of these individual areas that we then build in, and then the system does all of that roll-up calculation for us. Budget codes are king. If I just select a particular budget name, I will see a little flyout. I can adjust the size of that. I can jump between different budget codes, and I can see some detail about that. I can also see any integrations. I can see actual costs. I can see links to other parts of the system, all from within this page. We're going to look at those in a little bit more detail. One thing just to really highlight here, this is our budget code. Now, what we do within cost management is we'll take that overall budget code and we'll break it down into the individual segments, as we call them. So we've got project code, subjob, CSI. That's just a categorization. That might be a uniclass categorization, or any categorization system that you use internally. We can build that in, and we break that out, a sequence for maybe a phasing of the project, phase 1, phase 2, and the cost type. Is it a subcontractor? Is it a internal cost? Is it a purchase order cost, for example? Because we break all of that down, we are able to build up different views of this page, and this is really powerful. So I can go and have a look at this based on cost type. So my original budget is obviously the same, but I can now break it down and say, well, what are my subcontract costs? What are my internal costs? What does that picture look like? I can look at this based on my categorization, my classification. So this is using an omni-class classification, so concrete, masonry, metals, finishes. I can go and dig into any of the detail of any of those. I can just expand all of those out so I can see everything gathered together within that grouping. So I can manage all of those. So we can slice and dice as we talk about it. I can view that information in any way that suits. All of these can be fully customized. I'm not going to go into the details of those, but we could, in effect, take all of these columns out and put our own columns in. It is that flexible that we can go and build out our own sheet for what we would like to see. Within budget, we've got our main contract, our contract with the client, and our payment applications. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Payment applications, we effectively input our payment schedules. This is both upstream, money that we're claiming, and downstream, money that's being claimed from us. We set our payment schedules, and then we select a period and we claim that money. We basically type in the values, what have we done, that will roll up into an amount, and then we can use the system to push that through to the client. The client can work within this system. Alternatively, we can just generate the documents directly from within here and then download them, send them by email. We don't have to allow the client in here. We can do if we want to. It doesn't really affect how we work with the system. So we manage all of that. And then we have the same from the cost side of things. And again, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail in this one because this is very similar to the budget. This is what the project is costing. And we've got the same breakdown based on those budget codes. So we can view this any way that we choose. We've got our payment applications. I'll just dig very briefly into the detail of these. So these are the payment applications that our subcontractors would make for what we deem as measured work. So how many cubic meters of concrete did you pour this week, this month, and that will form the basis of that payment application. And we see all the details on there. We can manage materials on site. Some companies don't use the idea of materials on site and don't allow that. We can turn that off if you don't. If you do monitor that, then we can turn it on. Any retention that is made by standard. So if I just come across here, we've got all of our retention. We can automatically retain a certain amount from the payment, and we can also release that as a particular work package comes to an end. When we look at this period, so within here we're going to see the claimed work. So this is what our subcontractor is claiming they have they've completed. We can then do our own site measurement. This is quite common in the UK, and then we'll go back and say we're not prepared to make a payment based on these values. We're going to make a payment based on these, and all of that is recorded in the system, and then feeds into our actuals and feeds into our forecast. All of that comes through into the actual cost here. So we're always going to see that, and we can drill into that, and we can see where that's come from. That's always on our main page. Okay, looking at variations. So as I said in the introduction, we can manage everything from the very inception of that potential change order, that potential variation, all the way through to submitting to issuing an amendment contract to a subcontractor because we have that approval. And this allows us to do all of that. Now, I'm going to jump into another part of the system. I'm just going to walk you through the start of that, and then I'm going to explain the rest of the process. So I have my project here, and I'm looking into the files. This is where I look into my my document store. Just as a side note, I have also set the system so that it stores all of my cost management documents. Everything that's generated within the system can be automatically stored. I don't have to manage this area. I just define this folder as my cost management area, and the system takes care of that. Coming back into here, I have some models in here. I'm going to go into one of my models. I might be looking at this on the mobile application. I'm obviously looking at it through my web browser at the moment. So I can view all of these documents. Everything I'm doing here I can do on the mobile app as well. So I'm going to look at this, and I might be looking at this and realize that looking through some of the properties that this is this roof has been specified incorrectly, or it's been specified correctly and it's been installed, or potentially it's going to be installed incorrectly because we don't have the right information. So I'm going to use the system and I'm going to generate an issue. This would be my first action. So I'm going to raise this issue. I'm going to flag it on here. That's creating a nice little thumbnail for me. I can go and mark that up if I want to. So I might want to just clarify that and just make it absolutely clear that that's what I'm looking at. So that's the issue. I've given it a type so that I can classify this further down the line. All of these can be configured within the system to suit your requirements. And I can put a description on here. Let's just put, if I go into there, I'll try that again. There we go. So I'm going to raise that. I'm going to assign that to someone, and I can fill all that in. I can put a due date on this and say I need an answer to this, and that's created that issue. That's great. That's gone off. But there is obviously, from my point of view, there is a cost impact potentially on that. The potential cost might also bear in mind, because obviously the default is, if we look at this, it's going to cost us more. There is obviously the potential for it to cost us less. We're just raising a potential change order so that we can say we need the commercial team to look at that. So directly from within here, I've raised the issue. I'm going to raise a PCO. Now, remember that these terms can be customized to suit. So this could be a potential variation. So I can go in here. Now I can pick up an existing PCO, or I can create a brand new one. So I'm going to call this rear entrance roof. Oops, I can't type. There we go. And I'll put that in specification. There we go. And I will create that PCO. That's done. That's all I need to do. I've got a link to that here. So I've now raised that to the commercial team. Okay, if I come back into my variations, and I'm just going to quickly refresh the screen here, just keeping a look on the time. So here it is. So here's my rear entrance roof. I've raised it. It will default to being out of scope. I can change that. So I can say it's our mistake. We're not going to get any more money for it. It may be both. It may be a budget change only, so it may not cost us any more, but we might claim extra money for it. Or it can be just a simple contingency. So we can use the system to say, we think, we use the terminology of a finger in the air, and we go, yes, we think there's a potential problem coming up. So I'm going to flag that and maybe build in a little bit of contingency for this. So we have all of that built within that. So I'm going to leave it as out of scope, and that allows me to work through the entire process. So the first thing to do in here, we can tell what type this is. So we don't have to put this information in, but it just helps us to subdivide these out and just get an idea of what have we got. Changes that relate to owner directives, that relate to contingency, that relate to subcontract. We have all our document generation package in here. We can see the reference. This is our reference in here. If you want to add additional information to this, I can go and add in anything from my files. It may be to add some drawings if I'm going out to to re-tender for this, then I can include those drawings as reference information. And we see all of our activity, everything that we do, every click is tracked within the system. So we've got that that audit trail. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is to say, well, this is the rear entrance roof. What areas of my budget are going to be affected by this? So I can do this individually, assign cost item, or I can back create the cost item. The cost item is basically the list of all the items that are going to be impacted within our budget of this potential change. So I'm going to go into the batch creation one, and I can see all of my codes in here. So I can search for this. So if I have a look at that, so I've got a flat roof, there we go. It's going to be impacted by that. We're going to have a quick look. It could also impact our glazing. I can go and just work through this. We may need additional architect fees, consulting engineers. We can work through all of these and say, what are we going to look at? RC frame, yeah, that may well be impacted. Internal bookwork wall should be fine. Envelope package, again, that might be impacted by that. Fire protection. So I can build up all of these and say, these are the potential impacts of that potential change order. That adds all of those in there. Okay, let's just set that as open. Okay, it's going to flag all of the sub items as open. Now, at this point, I can put an estimate in here if I want to. I don't have to use the estimate, but I can do if I want to. Or I can just go through proposed, submitted, approved, and committed. These are all different values. You can see that these change depending on, you know, negotiations you have with your subcontractor, negotiations you have with the client about what they're prepared to pay. It's that it's that conversation that we go through to finally get to a point of the client saying that's what we're going to approve, and then that's what we commit to. So if I select one of these, so I'm saying this is going to impact this particular component of the budget. I've got estimated, proposed, submitted, approved, and committed. None of the values are in there at the moment. I can choose to put them in or not. I might put something in here and say I'm going to put in, just as an estimate for a proposed 25,000. I think that's what I'm going to be. We can define the hierarchy. So I can say, well, that's just a line item, but within that, I'm going to have some of the structure, the insulation, the roof covering. I may break it down into labour and materials. I can build that out. I'm then going to want to potentially add some documents into that. I'm also going to want to request a quote. So I'm just going to pick one of these, although I can batch request. So I've got a batch request quotes here. That will just give me a batch request on all of these. I'm just going to simply select one. In here, this single item, I'm going to generate an RFQ, a request for quote. I would like a subcontractor. It might be a new subcontractor. It might be an existing subcontractor. I would like them to bid on this work. So I'm going to set that as open. I can fill in any information in here. I can pick a supplier from my list. If that's not been selected and I actually don't have one for that one, I'm going to do the RC frame very quickly. I'm going to request a quote for this one rather than tracking back into the information. So my RFC frame here, there we go. Let's just go in here. We'll flag this as open. Okay, we have our supplier in here already. So I can attach any documents from Autodesk Docs from the file system here, so drawings that may relate to that. I may need to include those. I can go and gather all of those. I can also generate the request for quote from one of my template documents. So I'm going to click on that. That's going to go and generate that request for quote.
Jonathan, while we are on this part, I'm seeing it from a business perspective, because I mean, sometimes we have bigger changes, sometimes we have smaller. Do you use this to also get like multiple quotes on if you have a work that you can ask different subcontractors, so that you have a reference on how much it should cost?
Yeah, so we can use the bulk request option. So we can batch request quotes, and then we can duplicate those entries and get quotes from new subcontractors. They don't have to be just the contractors that we've got on the moment.
Thanks
so yeah,
for the clarification.
We can do that. So we're looking at our RC frame here. So we've generated the document. Sorry, wrong level. There we go. I'm going to have a quick look at that. This is also stored in Autodesk Docs. So I'm going to just open that. That will open up in a new tab. And this will be generated automatically by the system. These are quite simple templates, but they are generated automatically for us based on whatever templates that we build into the system. That will now go through a process, and here I'm going to use some of the other examples. That's going to go through a process. So I've said in my change order, my potential change order, I have identified a number of areas that are going to be affected. I've got some estimate values in there. Some of them are out for pricing, some of them are open. Some are being revised. So we've had a quote back and we've said, no, we don't like that quote. We need you to go back and look at that again. So that process works through, and we can see all of that through our request for quote. So I've got all of these different requests for quote for all that entrance expansion. Okay, so some are, as I've said, being revised. Some are just out for pricing. Some I actually haven't decided who I'm going to go to at the moment for pricing. So those are all sat in abeyance at the moment. Looking upstream, so money that I'm going to get for this, I've said that this is out of scope. In other words, it's not something that we had originally tendered for. So I'm going to raise then a request for change order. This can be done directly. It can be done from within this setting as well. I can generate a request for change order. Now at this point, I do need to submit some values. So I wouldn't do this obviously until I have all of my costs in. I could do it from estimated. Technically, that would be a little bit of a risk for me, because somebody might come back and say you've missed an area, and actually our proposal is significantly higher than what you would put in as your estimate. So I would obviously not do that from estimate. So, but that's kind of the process of how we would go about that. So we generate the request for change order. We are saying to the customer, we need additional money for this. Here is all of the detail. That will go through a process. It will be potentially revised by us. It will go through until the owner, the client, actually approves that. And the final option then is to generate an owner change order. So they will say, yes, we've approved that. We've generated this change order. This can be something that's managed outside of the system. So we effectively generate this and send the documentation out, as I explained earlier. We can also invite people into this and work sort of collaboratively within the environment. It's very, very tightly controlled on permissions. So you're never giving anyone access that they don't specifically require. So the owner change order is generated, so we can see that this is what we're going to get. This is what extra money we're going to be paid, and we can then generate the supplier change order to say, okay, we are now sending you out this amended contract, and again, generated directly from within the system. It will add all of the documents together. We get all the detail, and as I said, these are just samples. We can build these from your own templates if that's what you require. And from a more of an admin side of things, these are the cost items that we have identified within our entire collection, let's call them, of potential variations. So this is everything that's impacted, and we can see what the estimates are, the proposed, submitted, approved, so we know exactly what we could be looking at in terms of additional value to the project and additional costs to that project, and we see all of the details in here. This again can be looked at based on anything that we want, based on cost status. So where are we? What have we got waiting for pricing? What have we got that's just opened? What's being accepted? What do we need to revise? How do we need to approach that? By purchase order, so we can go and view them simply that way. By request for change order, so we may, well, very often, certainly in the UK, we'll have a number of potential change orders. We'll maybe go out and get some pricing on those, and then what we would typically do is pick 4 or 5 of those potential variations, and we bundle them into one request for change order to the owner. And often that's specified by the owner, by the client. Any potential changes, potential variations, apologies, please just submit 1 per month. So the system allows us to do that. That's the change management system. It's very, very robust. Added to our cost management, so our measured work, our expenses, those are also included, just by way of information. From this can be imported again from say an accounting system. We can then assign them to the budget and then approve them. So all of this feeds directly into our forecast. Our forecast in this particular example has been linked to the schedule feature within Autodesk Build. Very, very briefly, aware of the time, Autodesk Build, one of the modules within that is the schedule function. That will enable us to bring in that's the Power Projects, Primavera, Microsoft project files directly into the system and effectively view them, manage them, do 3 week, 6 week look aheads, and actually manage changes to those within the system. Once we've got them within Build, we can also then link them to our budget names. So all of my budget items are linked to a particular item within my schedule. That allows me to then start looking at my my costs through time, not only now but into the future. What do I expect to spend? What do I expect to receive? And what am I expecting by way of variations?
Perfect.
Take a look at that graphically. I'm not going to go into all of the details here. I'm aware of the time. We also have a number of, if I can get into them, we have a number of dashboards within Build that look at not only just cost but everything else. But specifically, I can see the overview here on my home page. At an executive level, I can then go and look at that across all of my projects and say, what is the current performance of all of my projects? That's kind of the final, very top level look. 4 minutes to go. Sorry if there are any questions.
No, perfect, Jonathan. I just want to kind of try to sum this up because I think as someone that have worked a lot with our clients on implementing Autodesk Construction Cloud, sometimes cost management can feel a bit overwhelming. So we have very clear strategic plans when we implement cost management, and we try to implement it on low level scale to begin with, to make the budget accessible and also to be able to get our issues connected to cost. So that's like our first step of it. And then we have the opportunity to add it to the main contract, to our subcontractor, but we have a very clear path of what we should implement at to what extent and what point to make this also easy to use in the project phase. So it's also important for me to just clarify that, because it is it can be an overwhelming system. As you say, it's very adaptable, but it is one of the main chances we have in order to make the issues that we have that is connected to a cost at least documented, at least registered, and it makes it possible for anyone on our project site to actually register something that they think will connect with our cost, even if they are not on top of the budget, like the project leader. So it's basically that is our main goal, to bring the economy down to a project level, and for everyone to be able to register changes that they think might affect the cost, if we have delays, if we have material of change, or it could be anything, right? So I just want to try to clarify that. As a last poll here, I also want to see like basically the interest for it, and to look more into maybe even build or cost management. It could be Autodesk Construction Cloud as a whole, as many of you haven't implemented it yet. So if you are able to answer this before leaving, and I would just, we didn't have any specific question, but please feel free to reach out to any of us after. And I would also like to thank Jonathan here for trying to take us through cost.
My pleasure. Thank you, Britta.
Thank you. We will close the webinar now, and have a great weekend, everyone, when that comes.
Yes. Take care, everybody. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.